In today's video, I'd like to tell you why I believe books like this can actually help you more than so-called self-help books like this. These are two huge names in the self-help, self-development, personal development. Well, yeah, it's all the same stuff. They're two big names in the self-help community. One of them, Dale Carnegie, he's one of the OGs, one of the originals, one of the founders of self-help books. You know, he started about 100 years ago. And of course, Tony Robbins, you probably know Tony Robbins. He is a huge figure today. He's got a documentary on Netflix. He sells personal courses and retreats for probably tens of thousands of dollars per day. I mean, he is marketing to some of the super rich people in the world. More than 1 million copies sold, over 6 million copies sold. I'm surprised it's not higher, actually. Maybe this is an old edition. But the point is, they're selling millions and millions of copies of their book. And in my opinion, the advice is quite obvious. I mean, look at this. This is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Chapter 17. If you have a lemon, make lemonade. Now, I don't know if that was a cliche in 1944 when this book came out, but it is certainly a cliche today. It's a cliche that most people would be embarrassed to put as the title of a chapter today. And, you know, for all I know, he invented that phrase. I doubt it, but for all I know, you know, I shouldn't be too hard on him for that one. But, like, the point is, let's go to a random chapter here. Okay, creating a compelling future. Adventure goals. So I guess he's giving you a page to fill it in yourself and write down your goals. I mean, come on, Tony Robbins. I'm paying for your book. You can't even write the whole thing. You got me writing your book now. Again, create your own blueprint. I thought you were supposed to create the blueprint. Isn't that why I bought the book? Like a lot of this advice comes down to just like visualizing your future, positive self-think, positive self-talk, changing the words you're using so that you're being more powerful and you are changing the way you think, changing the way you talk, changing the way other people perceive you, so they want to give you more money. That allows you to scale your business. Suddenly you're making millions of dollars, and that's supposed to make you happier or more complete, I guess. They don't usually get to that part in the books. They just tell you how to make a bunch of money and sound like rich people. They don't always tell you how to search for meaning and stuff like that. But if you are someone who's looking to search for meaning, and that is something that you can relate to and try to understand, I suppose, that's where fiction comes in. 1984, of course, by George Orwell, one of the great writers of the 20th century. The other one, W. Somerset Maugham, is also a great writer from the 20th century. Not as well known as Orwell, but I would highly recommend this book, The Razor's Edge. It's the last book I've read that just blew my mind. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But first, I'm not going to summarize this book, and I'm not going to spoil the ending for anyone who hasn't read it. But the genius of it, and this is the first way that fiction is really fundamentally different from self-help. It's not just like selling you this idea of value, create more value for your business. It's not selling you this idea that is sort of the same thing you've heard a bunch of other people already talk about. It's creating an entirely new vision of the world. This book is still successful, not because it makes you feel good when you read it, but actually because it makes you feel bad sometimes. It makes you feel like, oh my God, is this what society is turning into? This crazy surveillance state with no personal freedom, and we just trust the government for everything, and we just think they know best. We don't know anything. Orwell was writing about that because he came from a time when fascism and communism were on the rise. He saw it sweeping through Europe. He saw the loss of personal freedom. He came up with a story which hid his he didn't hide the message, but which layered this message within a narrative, within a story. And it's terrifying because you can see aspects of it in today's society. In particular with, you know, the surveillance state and our cell phones, which are always, you know, tracking our location and stuff like that. That was the vision he foresaw before we even had computers. So, Orwell was a genius. He was definitely way ahead of his time. Which brings me to my next book, The Razor's Edge. I mean, this book, unlike Orwell, which was looking to the future, if I read this today, I'm looking to the past. I guess 1984 technically is the past, but it's like a future vision, so don't worry too much about the specific year in this example. But this book took place in the early 20th century, right after World War II, actually. World War I. The main character is an American named Larry, who fought in the war, and then he has this existential crisis, and he realizes, his whole life is set up. He's got a rich woman he's about to marry, and he's got a life ahead of him of endless dinner parties and bougie relationships with all these rich people, and he's in the high class of society. But he's on a search for truth. He's on a search for meaning. He wants something more out of life. Isn't that something we can all relate to, whether we're rich or poor? Whether we live 100 years ago or we live today? These are fundamental questions about our nature that we all need to face. And I don't think I'm spoiling too much by saying that, this character Larry, he goes on a search. He runs away to Paris. He goes traveling. He goes all over. He's searching for a different kind of life that's more meaningful than the one he was born into. Somerset Maugham, he doesn't tell you that this is the way you should live. Certain people could read the book and think that Larry, he's got it figured out. He's really living, man. He's really doing it. And someone else could read the book and really feel bad for his wife-to-be, this woman he was about to marry. A lot of people could say, he's just an irresponsible adult. He's just a child who never grew up. What is he doing? Or, people who come from a poorer background might think, well, this rich, spoiled guy, easy for him to do. I could never do that. But the point is, there's different ways to relate to this story depending on how you see your life. The idea of a book like this isn't to tell you what the answer is. It's just to present different characters who have different views of the world and to let you decide how you feel about the journey that the character went on. And I'll tell you what else. I got one more book for you. Sometimes those journeys our characters go on don't need to be external journeys to other countries. They can be journeys that take place inside of us. Though this book is kind of a journey about both. Now, I suppose the last book was also a journey about both. The point is, a lot of these journeys take place outside and inside. They're transformative journeys that our characters go on. And, this book, when I finished it, it was like the clouds had just opened up in the sky and the sun was coming down. It was I don't know, I just had this really meaningful moment when I got to the last page. Have you guys ever experienced that with a book? It's a great feeling. I'm getting excited, guys. I'm getting excited about these books. I need to make more book videos, I guess. But this last book, L'Incolore, Tsukuru, Tazaki et Seane de Pèlerinage, I read it in English and now I'm starting to read it in French because, it's a good way to practice your language, to read a book you've already read in another language. But also it's a way to relive the story and to just feel the energy of it once again. Because a lot of books for me have very particular feelings to them. I don't remember every character's name. I don't remember everything that happened in every chapter. But I always remember the feeling a book left me with. And Murakami's books, to me, they kind of feel like dreams. I'm not the first person to point out that he has a dreamlike quality to his fiction writing. You really are transported by the great writers, the Orwells, the Murakamis, the Kafkas, the Hemingways, the Toni Morrison, another great writer. I mean, there's so many. The great writers, they transport you to a place that you never, perhaps a place you've been, perhaps a place you haven't been, but they always give you a new way of seeing it. I mean, this is the story of this introverted Japanese kid who his friends leave him and he doesn't know what to do with his life. He starts the book depressed. He doesn't even know why he should be alive. The Tony Robbins and the Dale Carnegies of the world might say, why would you want to read a book like that? You just need to think positive. You know, Tsukuru Tazaki, you just need to change your mental state. And you just need to imagine the future that you want to have, and then you're going to 10x your growth of your business. But not everyone wants that kind of life. Some people want to go first search for truth. Some people want to read a book about sadness because they've experienced sadness, and because when someone finds a beautiful way to express something that they've experienced before, it expands your range as a human being. I mentioned before that a good fiction book to me feels a certain way, feels very unique. For me, self-help books all feel the same. They all kind of feel the same. They're talking about productivity. They're talking about like this very narrow aspect of what it means to be a human being, where the human experience covers so much more than that. The human experience could be something like 1984, where you have this character working in this giant bureaucracy and they just feel like the world that these companies and these corporations and these governments are building is not human. It's not a place for real human beings that they should be living in. And does anyone else feel this way? And you read a book and you realize, yes, other people do feel that way, and you're not alone. A book like this, I think a lot of people can relate to the feeling of losing friends. Either you physically move apart, emotionally you move apart, spiritually you move apart. And sometimes the only way through that is time. And sometimes having a book that beautifully expresses exactly what you feel but you never had the words for can be a magical experience, especially when it's done in a dreamlike way like Murakami can do it. So I have a lot of respect for people who write books about like the darker parts of the human psyche. I think it helps a lot of people realize that they aren't alone. They are not alone out there. And yeah, like a good book, a good fiction book can go to some crazy places. Sometimes that's the way to make your soul grow. Sometimes that's the way to have the full human experience. Sometimes that's what you need to be a better human being. I'll put a link to all these books in the description, as well as, I guess, a few of my other favorite fiction books for anyone who wants to check them out. If you click those links and you buy one, I get a bit of money from Amazon for sending you there. But yeah, I'm not a marketer. I'm not gonna try and sell you on that. That's just how it works. So you can do whatever you want to do. Anyway, I've been rambling for a long time, so hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, see you next time.